this is another usual chat thing. Apparently, we've been off schedule with the theological discussion in Apologia versus Atheism. Last night was the discussion of morality and religion with Vincent Jones. Now we are discussing, just chatting with a brother in Christ, Neo Cloud. He wanted to do this little one-on-one hangout, but then apparently a bunch of people from the NSA and the White House decided to leak this information out to the public, so people like Lindsay Liu and the Holy Spackle and Gary got in. So, yeah, as usual, blame Obama for everything.
That's funny. I'm still laughing, sorry.
Right. So,
man, all right. So I want to go through this whole thing with Benny, and I can understand he's insensitive to certain people. He's from a country where insensitivity doesn't matter. They don't hold the same views as America does, I guess, or whatever. And this is why you get people like that in your rooms. And I know Benny can be that way, and I do doubt him at many times. But all I can do when somebody says they're a Christian is just take their word for it. Right. You know, and if they did something insensitive to you, I'm not going to call them any less Christian. I'm just going to say, well, maybe what they did was wrong, and they should maybe learn from it. And I asked him, if you remember, I did ask him. I said, I think he's from Romania, but I'm not going to expose Benny. This is not a Benny expose thing. The whole point is, I asked, even if it wasn't Benny, if it was anybody that was offending you in my room, I would kick them for you, just so that you wouldn't be offended.
And that's what I was going to ask about that. Then why did that happen whenever I ended up leaving, and plus you still went
I was actually on my way to kick Benny, and you left.
Mm.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong, my intentions are good. It's just sometimes it's hard for me to choose. It's like, what, you know, you got your cursor hovering over the button and you don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, do I hit the missile launch nuke button or do I leave it alone?
I must have a magnet on my avatar. Everybody hits the button on me.
I haven't.
I haven't been in. Who said that?
Spackle. I've been in a hang with mods and I haven't kicked you.
You know what it is for me?
I've never.
Hold on.
Sorry.
What were you saying?
You know what it is for me, Gary and Deidre, and anybody else here, and I've actually met Joe. What's his name? Joe. A new guy named Joe. Not a new guy, but he's been around.
Joe Carter.
Joe what?
Carter.
I think that's Joe Carter. Yeah.
Joe Carter and I get along well.
Yeah, I love Joe Carter, and the thing is he doesn't really care. I mean, he's not going against anything. He's always just so understanding in what you believe, and he has big words to prove it. But I'm just saying that I never really knew that that was his symbol until later on. I was like, whoa, that's his face? I totally forgot who he was because I had met him when he used to show himself a lot, and then recently I haven't seen him that much, and then finally I connected his avatar with his face. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I guess when I see a face, I'm like, okay, we're real people. And it's hard for me to say that because I'm what you call a hypocrite when it comes to that. I don't like showing mine, but I like to see everybody else's.
No, I feel you. I'm the same way. I don't want to show my face, but I don't mind seeing yours.
I guess it makes us more human, you know.
My
And with Gary, man, when I seen Gary, I was like, oh my God, Gary.
I can't get my stupid camera to work.
Yeah. Oh, anytime anybody needs anybody, I'm whoring myself out right now. Anytime anybody needs any computer help, just ask me. I can do just about anything.
He's got hacks.
I gotta actually get a new camera. This is an iMac. I need to take the screen off and replace the camera.
You know what you do with an iMac? You throw it in the garbage and buy a new one.
Oh, it's good for video, man. Video and music, though. I mean,
but as soon as it stops working, it's a paperweight.
Yeah.
It is a paperweight if you don't have skills. But if you do, they're not that hard to work on. They're just kind of a pain in the butt.
Well, I know how to work on them. It's just there's no point. You might as well just buy a new one. By the time it stops working, it's pretty old.
I don't know.
So the hangout that, I mean, I don't know if I'm jumping on what Christian anarchists wanted to talk about or not, but I'm going to kind of steer.
It's not just about you, yeah. It's about the people that were talking crap about what me and Christian anarchists were
Mm-hmm.
disagreeing about, and it has nothing to do with you. I'm talking the other people. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? These other people, man.
No, I just literally was angry over it. It actually did make me angry, and I was just frustrated because, you know, and then somehow Shannon and I got in an argument too on that same thread, and there's really no reason for us to argue at all. It's just that we approach depression and mental illness differently. I'm just super hypersensitive about mental illness because I found that many Christians will say that mental illness is just purely a spiritual problem and you should address it with just spiritual means. And instead, that kind of can compound an issue and keep people from finding help that they might actually find helpful. And then when somebody shares something that's really vulnerable and then someone makes a joke like a gunshot, it just makes me horrified. And so maybe I misread you. I thought you were protecting him and lying for him, and that's what I took it as. And if I misread you, I'm sorry.
I'm saying that what I'm saying is that if I joined somebody's room and they made some kind of offensive thing that I would view offensive, I'd just leave. I wouldn't even complain about it. But I'm not saying everybody should do that. I'm saying what I do. Somebody says F Jesus and all this other stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, see you guys.
But that's offense as opposed to actually causing real harm. You see what I'm saying?
You know, I know what I'm saying with real harm, but you know what I'm saying. I know I understand the difference, but
yeah,
that's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying, like, there are certain things that will trigger me also.
Yeah.
I think that I wasn't in this hangout, but I'm just listening to what you guys are talking about. For me, I experience from a lot of mental health problems. I'm crazy, but
Don't say
but
that.
it's true, Neo. If you're uncomfortable and someone keeps on doing it, then just fucking leave.
Well, you're a lot less crazier than some of the militant atheists that I've met on Google Plus. So.
Hey, you know, if it makes you feel better, I'm a flavor of crazy. I have an anxiety disorder and I have depression. So
all of that. I have ADHD. I mean.
Oh, I believe ADHD for you.
I know by admitting all these things, like, it kind of makes you vulnerable for people to attack you, but honestly, you can't help mental illness.
I'm not saying Jesus is always the answer, but I will say that's what helped me, and taking pills did not help me.
No, I say I attack it from all ends. You know what I mean? Like, I think honestly, Jesus saved my life. I mean, you want to get real? Jesus saved my life, and a youth pastor was used in my life to just bring me value and purpose and to show me. You know what I mean?
It's like my anxiety used to bring me down, and now it brings me up anyway.
I was I guess it was about 20 years ago. They had me on lithium, and they had me on all kinds of drugs. I was very I was manic depressive. There were times where I'd be so manic and so afraid that I would miss something that I'd stay awake for 72 hours. I couldn't go to sleep. I was afraid that somebody would do something that I wanted to do too, and I would miss my opportunity to do it with them. And I went through that for years. And I've told pretty much when I gave my life to Christ, He took that away from me. Now, I'm not saying everybody gets cured, but I haven't taken a pill for those sorts of things in 15 years. 15 years. No, it's been 16 years. When I gave my heart to the Lord, it stopped. And you know, I understand that doesn't happen for everybody, but it sure did for me. And there is no doubt that my life was saved by that. I mean, I think by now everyone knows I own firearms. I would get so depressed that I would give guns to people to hold for me because I was afraid I'd shoot myself. And so that hasn't happened at all since then. And I can only say that I pray for people who feel that. I know how they feel.
Yeah, suicide is definitely a big factor in today's world. If you read how the statistics on suicide, it's insane. I think it's like 1 every 12 seconds. I don't remember what the number is anymore, but it's like insane. I was like, oh my God, or 12 people every second? I don't remember. It's crazy.
I just want to say, though, that, you know, I do get it, and I do understand. I don't want to sound flip about it at all. I've listened to a lot of people talk to me about this stuff, and I know it sounds, you know, a little flippant when I say, you know, let God fix you, because He can, but I don't know why He doesn't all the time. And
I could still lie. But,
please come on, let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry, bro.
You know, forget it.
Gary, it's not you, it's your cadence. So sometimes we can't tell by your rhythm.
I'm finished.
Yeah, I didn't know when you were done.
It's not that anybody wants to shut you up. It's that we just don't read your cadence correctly.
And not only that, I have a lag on my side. I can't tell when it sounded.
Right, like what happened with me just there at Neo. Sometimes there's a lag, and I can't tell if he's.
I can't. I thought I didn't hear anything. It was done. Like I heard silence for a minute.
No, I just hear that Gary. I mean, what I've been reading from
just
Gary.
Because there's a silence doesn't mean it's time for everybody to pounce in. This isn't a competition.
I didn't say it was. I just did. I thought.
Gary, can you just let us know when you're over? We're listening. It's not that we want to shut you down. So you just let us know when you're done, and that would work. How about that?
We all have these mental issues too. I do.
Oh, Lindsay left.
I'm done.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I just also would like to point out that Jungle Jargon, I don't know why, everyone wants me to hang out from left to right, and apparently Jungle Jargon wanted me in, and I think I know why, because his topic is saying atheists have no position, and Calvinists have no covering for sin of the non-elect.
Yeah, but just because someone, you know, holds a hang doesn't mean that they have you on demand, you know?
I don't want to talk about them. I'm talking about us right now.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just saying.
I'm really sad to see Gary. I'm just saying sometimes there's a lag, and I don't want to address anybody else here, but I used to live in a psych ward for many years of my life, and it was very hard for me to understand all these other people, and we all had different problems, and to communicate with each other was almost impossible. And, you know, it's a lot of things. Like Christian Anarchist said, these things bother me because I used to live like that in a psych ward for a long time with people that were way crazier than me. And it scares me to think, you know, that they're, and I'm just saying, man, medication and all this other stuff, I'm not trying to be condescending or anything, but, man, just give us some leniency, please. That's all I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, also, I feel for you, Gary, because what I've been hearing from you for the last few days is that you don't feel heard, and maybe you feel ran over, and for that, I'm sorry. I'm
sorry, too.
And I think I've contributed to that feeling, and so some of that is just that we are in these environments where we kind of have to battle for time, or I don't know why. We just kind of run over each other by accident, or sometimes maybe even intentionally.
Well, I'll do what all you guys do, because when you're thinking, instead of going a little silent in your speech, you go, nah, nah, nah. So I'll try to at least make noise.
Yeah, I say a lot. You'll hear me go and that being said, I have all these terrible like little fillers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, so far, Neil, I don't think I've unblocked you, added you back. I don't think.
Thank you. But what I'm saying is, this hangout was about me and you, and I'm sorry to cut anybody else off or anything like that. But I was trying to get to the point of me and you. I don't mean to cut anybody else off because I specifically asked you to make this hangout about me and you, and I wanted to get through this whole thing about why people think that we hate each other, and it's really bad when you hear what the atheists are saying about us. Look at these two Christians that hate each other. And I'm like, come on, man.
I think hate is very strong. Think hate's a very strong word.
Right. I mean, maybe we're having some disagreements or something, but it's not like we're going to go kill ourselves. So why do I have to die? Because you want to kill yourself.
Right. For some, like, people will think me and G-Man hate each other because right now we're in a little...
Sorry, I'm drinking a lot of soda.
Right, but people think me and G-Man hate each other because we're in a little thing right now. Because now G-Man thinks that I'm on my way to becoming an atheist, thinks I'm sucking up to the atheist community.
One of the most people I disagree with the most is probably, I'm not going to name names, but it's either Rocco or Matt Yester or somebody, not those two, but there's somebody worse than those two, that come at you in this way that make you feel insignificant. You know what I'm saying? As if Calvinism is the only way, that kind of thing. And this
there are hyper-Calvinists, yeah.
Yeah, this is hyper, whatever you want to say. It's like, what I'm saying is, whoever, you know what I'm talking about, Deidre, but it's like, I don't see the point of splitting Christians apart. The atheists are laughing at us right now. They're like, oh, they've gone from attacking us to attacking each other. Look at them.
Yeah,
That's sad. And I will not be part of a community that does that.
Well, we're already in Christianity, and it's going to be divided because we're fallible human beings, and we're going to have different readings of the Bible. And there are some people that are going to want to force that reading onto others. I am a Calvinist, but while Deidre is an Arminian, I won't condemn her because I could be wrong, and she could be right. She could be wrong. I could be right.
Can you be both? Can you be both, but neither?
I honestly don't.
My Molinist is the closest to both, but neither.
Right. I mean, I honestly don't think it's able to. To me, it's like a coin issue. You're either heads or tails.
It's just restricting God to man's theology.
But there's Thomists too, and there's Molinists too. It's not just Calvinists and Arminians. And the other thing is, some Arminians are even a bit of a compatibilist. I'm a compatibilist just a little bit.
And that's what a classic Calvinist is.
God saves people? God can save people through Arminianism, Calvinism, I believe anyway. I
don't think it's a salvation issue at all.
It's not salvation
for Jesus Christ, but I'm saying to say somebody is not saved because of their different of Calvinism. I mean,
yeah, like I was in G-Man's Hanging, and I noticed in the comments some guy named Raw said Calvinism is of the devil.
Yeah,
why preach the gospel if Calvinism is true?
And I don't blame him for objections towards Calvinism, but yeah, I think it's when you push it on other people, and that's the problem. Is that as you shove it down somebody's throat, that's the problem. That's when you get into the issues.
Yeah, when it's like aggressive, and I've had some people take to the point where they almost make it sound like it's a salvation issue, because if you don't accept their idea of how grace is dispensed, then therefore you are rejecting the gospel. And I'm like, whoa! Or they'll actually put this doctrine before the gospel, and it's like you can actually give the gospel without proposing free will or without proposing this demand for this acceptance of predestination. So I just think it's really funny. I've been watching some people that really are insisting on giving the gospel through Calvinism, and then you'll see people like Alex Botton that say this is evil. If this God is true, this God is evil. This God is evil, and you're making it harder for people. Like, I'm just going to use Alex as an example. Shout out to Alex Botton. Who finds Calvinism extremely unpalatable and offensive. So why add offense to the gospel by insisting that your doctrine must be correct and you have to swallow this doctrine?
All right. By the way, I just wanted to note, Gary, if Gary's listening, man, this is why I just had to leave. I'm two people now. I've cloned myself. Sometimes I can't hear, and my connection cuts out because I can't afford my internet right now. My neighbor said I could use hers, so that's what I'm on.
Right.
So don't blame me when things cut out. It's just I can't hear you. It has nothing to do. It's a technical problem, not a cut you off problem.
There's a guy actually by the name of JackSmack77 who said people like me and Deidre would be going to hell because we are both because I'm a Calvinist, she's an Arminian. This guy believes that Arminianism and Calvinism sends people to hell, and if you believe in either one of them, then you send yourself to hell.
Wow.
Ooh.
So, which really shocks me.
Well, I think everybody has their own theology.
Mhm.
At one point, everybody is going to even if you're completely compatible as Calvinist or Arminius or whatever it is you are, you're gonna always disagree with somebody at one point or another, even if they hold very similar views.
Right. And to me, the whole thing with the theology that we get into is more spiritual growth. It's not an idea of salvation or how you're saved and all that. It's like one of the reasons why I won't do a fellowship thing with Thick Shades, because he claims Calvinism condemns people to hell, and Calvinism is satanic doctrine. And this is the same guy that says, stop fruit inspecting me, we're not supposed to fruit inspect our brethren. Yet he's using the same thing, he's fruit inspecting, to determine how I am not a brother and whatnot. He's using the same kind of thing to determine whether or not I'm following a satanic doctrine, or whether the doctrine that I follow is satanic or not. But, yeah, I mean, doctrines involved in theology, learning about those is for spiritual growth. But salvation doesn't need teaching about theologies and doctrines and all that stuff. The main thing is the gospel. We preach the gospel, and then that's what saves people.
And I got you, and we could go into an infinite regress about this forever until the day's end. But what I'm saying is, the whole point of me and you disagreeing, getting back to the point, was over Benny. I put Benny on trial, and I told him that, and I said, if you want to explain yourself, you're on trial. I know you don't have time for that right now, but one of these days we'll get to that, and I'll tell him I've told him right now, he just talked to me, and I told him, you're on trial, brother. I mean, if you want to call yourself a Christian and want to be offending Christians, then whatever. And I'm not gonna put up with people that want to offend other brothers in Christ. That's not something I do. I'm not in that business.
Right.
Well, I say don't offend anybody. I mean, within reason. Like adding offense to the gospel needlessly, meaning don't dehumanize another person just because they're not a Christian. You know, treat
Right.
people.
And I'm sorry about what I did to Skylar. I'm gonna public apology. If I called him a hat-wearing attention whore just for a joke, because it's a double standard. That's the way they talk about each other and me. They say, oh, well, Neo, you don't show your face and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? That's what I said. Sorry, I just can a brother have a mistake?
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's like if somebody says, well, that's unchristian to say, it's like, maybe so. But I wasn't representing Christianity at that time.
right.
So forgive me if I slip up and say something that's controversial.
Well,
I just
we all have our...
I don't like people that like attention. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, well, we're all capable of really goofing up and saying weird things at times, every one of us.
And I think G-Man has those moments, and he's actually admitted to me that he's done it because he was struggling at the time. He didn't have a church to go to. He didn't have a pastor to console with. So there were times I asked, why do you be this condemning towards other people and be this shouting and, loud and all that kind of stuff, and just there's some things I disagree with. And he said, you know what, anarchist, you're right. But the problem is that, I'm trying to control myself. I don't have a pastor or a church to go to console with on these type of issues. And so I even helped him out. I even offered him a couple of pastors to check out. I even recommended John Piper, to which he then asked, wait, is John Piper a Calvinist? I'm like, yeah, he identifies as a new Calvinist. But anyways, now it's getting to a point where me and G-Man, he's accusing me of a whole lot of things. He thinks I'm sucking up to the atheists. I'm on my way to becoming an atheist, and all that kind of stuff.
It's when you surround yourself with atheists.
I surround myself with them to preach to them. Like, I remember Sean was hosting a hangout. Well, not hosting a hangout. He was moderating a debate on the idea of creation and evolution. Young Earth versus
But
theistic
also,
evolution. And
there's a point where you have to pray for these people that there's no
Mhm.
reason or evidence that you can ever
Right.
give.
and that's why I prayed for him, and I even preached the gospel to him during the last round. For my closing statement, I said, the idea of believing in of the young Earth model, or the old Earth, or the theistic evolution model, all these are irrelevant to the truth of what we're trying to get to. That is the gospel, that we are sinful beings, we need a savior, and even the atheist who believes in evolution needs to accept Jesus Christ
Okay,
with his
well, the
heart.
Bible talks about praying in front of atheists. They're not going to accept it anyway. It's actually more beneficial just to pray behind their backs, and I know it seems that way, but
Sneaky prayers.
But my thing was, I at least did my best to preach the gospel to him, which the Bible commands us to do as the Great Commission.
exactly. Luke or Paul, I don't remember. A lot of them.
Yeah, it was one of the best ones
uh,
you can find is Matthew and
gospel.
Mark.
That doesn't mean go shouting around like you want to get your head cut off in a Muslim country. You know, that doesn't mean go out extreme. And I used to believe I'm an extreme person. Don't get me wrong. I'd be one of the first street preachers you've seen out there talking to the worst of the worst, or whatever it is, because that's the way Jesus worked. Paul used to kill people. Matthew was a tax collector. Dr. Kent Hovind said, if you lined up all of the tax collectors and lawyers are pretty much the same thing to me. Kent Hovind said, if you lined up all the lawyers around the planet, end to end, the world would be a better place.
I
That's hilarious.
There was actually a deal I was discussing with in another hangout about Kent Hovind. It's not the creation thing I find.
Yeah, I know about Keefe's. Man, Keefe's kind of pissed me off. He says he's a Christian. All I can do is take his word for it.
Well, it's not about Keefe's thing.
He made a hangout with Kent Hovind, and then the next day he made a Kent Hovind, anti-Kent Hovind video.
Yeah,
No,
because
if you're going to be anti-Kent Hovind, you can be anti-Kent Hovind to his face. See, I don't fake Christian unity. I'm who I am, and no, I'm saying, like, if you have an issue with Kent Hovind, you say you have an issue with Kent Hovind, have some balls. You don't interview him politely like you're his friend, and then go, oh, let's talk about him.
Stab
him in the face. Exactly. That's what I do.
Right.
No, I'm making a joke, but my point is that I did think that was inconsistent, but I'm not willing to throw people in and out of Christianity. That's not my job. That's God's job.
Right.
It's not my job to condemn Catholics, say they really aren't saved. It's not my job just because I'm mad and I thought you were dishonest, Neo. I didn't ever said anything about your salvation. Notice that. I never will attack people's salvation. I've never done it, but I've had it attacked at me several times. And you know what's interesting? You said don't surround yourself with atheists. I don't see much difference between the behavior of atheists and Christian. I honestly don't. The difference is that we are made alive in Christ, but we still suffer from some of the same ailments as everybody else in the world.
Such as sin.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard to see all the suffering, though. I mean, somebody may be hiding it and you have no idea. So.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
they suffer spiritually. They don't suffer
Spiritually.
physically. They want to sin. The difference is that they want to sin, and they're going to choose to live in that sense of sin. 1 Corinthians 2:14, the natural man cannot know the things of God, for they are foolishness to him, and that they're spiritually discerned. The natural man.
Yeah, exactly. Was 2 Corinthians 4:16. I think it is. It says the unlearned. Or the unseen thing. Yeah, how are we supposed to know,
Right.
Supernatural.
But back on Kent Hovind, I wasn't going to talk about Keefe's on that thing. The thing, and it's not the young Earth creationist thing. The thing that really makes me question Kent Hovind's theology is the first college that he went to, which was known as Midwestern Baptist College. I took a look at the website. He's an alumni as well as a guy by the name of Chuck Baldwin. They graduated there, and they're pretty much like they're famous people that graduated from that campus. And this is from their website, from their statement of faith. It claims to be a King James onlyist college. Like this says, we believe that the King James is the perfect impeccable, inspired, and preserved Word of God. We believe that inspiration took place when God spoke to the holy men of old, and that God has preserved His Word to this present moment. So pretty much referring that whenever 1611 came, people working on King James, those were the people that God spoke to.
Most historical scholars work with almost any version that they can find that is best suits the historical evidence for Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Right, and then, but then,
The King James Bible.
And a lot of scholars use NRSV, honestly. A lot of them do.
Oh, I'm talking about like William Lane Craig, and I'm talking about the original papyrus that the scripture was written on, kind of historians
Right.
that they talk about. They're talking about the guys, the source material that all of these things are written on, and how to interpret that, because a lot of these interpretations, as we know, aren't wrong. They just have a lot of words that in English don't make sense.
right, but then the last part of the thing, it says that the Textus Receptus, which is one of the sources that's used, that the Textus Receptus manuscript, because that's the one that the King James uses for its translation, its source. They say that that's the only reliable manuscript that we have in existence. And then if you go to this college, they do not use any other text or translation, and that they will not tolerate you using any other translation. So that's the part that makes me worry about Hovind's translation, because he even went about saying, if you want to be a real Bible student, you are going to need a King James. Those other Bible versions, they're not going to be of any use. So that's the thing why I have a problem with Kent Hovind, is because he basically says that King James Bible is the only reliable version, and even his history is wrong. He said that
I know that. Yeah. What I was saying is the only reason I trust the King James version is because I can easily derive the original message out of that version, as opposed to many other versions like the NSB or whatever. For me, it makes more sense.
Right.
Now, to say that it doesn't make sense to you is, you know what I'm saying? It's a difference of opinion. It has nothing to do with whether we're deriving the same message out of something, a different interpretation. That's what I'm saying.
But the main problem that they'll have, these King James only, is because of they'll say there are certain passages that have been removed from the Bible. For example, let me find it's either in Mark or Luke, and basically it's when they go about. Let me see. I'm trying to make sure I find it. Oh yeah, and at the ending of Mark chapter 16, starting at verse 9 through 20, according to the manuscripts in the NIV, from what I have on my thing, it says the earliest manuscripts and some other ancient witnesses do not have verses 9 through 20 included into Mark 16. So basically, then they would cut the verse off there, but then they would still put it in the NIV translation with the subtitle saying
Footnotes. Yep, in the footnotes.
Yeah, in the footnotes, yeah. And then there's the thing about the woman caught in adultery. That story where Jesus says, go and sin no more. He who is without sin.
That was completely missing at one point. Yep.
Yeah, it was the earliest manuscripts say that we don't have that in the earliest manuscripts of that particular passage, and we can clarify this because we have the manuscripts. There's a guy by the name of Daniel B. Wallace who has started a project that's committed to finding the manuscripts and preserving them in digital copies that he takes in pictures, so people can read the manuscripts in Greek or Hebrew that he finds.
Well, anytime you want to talk to Benny, he said, just tell him, what you feel and whatever. You blocked him accordingly. I would too if that's how you feel, but I'm not saying that you should unblock him. I'm just telling you that I have put him on trial, and I told him, listen, what you did was wrong, and he's like, okay, whatever, and so here we go. It doesn't really matter.
Being willing to talk, though, is a huge good sign. If you're willing to talk.
And I know who he is. He showed himself to other people before, so.
All right, so
I guess he's just too shy.
No, I don't mean with words. I mean like, even if he typed or whatever, like being willing to engage when you've had a dispute is a good sign.
Yeah, and this is the thing for a lot of Christians, we seek resolution, and that's one of the first steps. And you know, we have to forgive each other. Forgiveness. If you can't forgive somebody else, who's going to forgive you?
right. All right, so I'm about to head out, get some sleep.
Go on. Bang on, Christian anarchist, as much as you can, as much as everything you've got to do, man. That I commend you in everything that you do. I'm not going to stop you because I can't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I would just like to point out before I do go that if y'all want to, there's Jungle Jargon's Hangout, and then One Way Apologetics has made a response to G-Man's Hangout called Does God Have Free Will? So if y'all want,
Xbox has a hangout too.
yeah, and they invited me to that. Like I said,
Hey,
I'm
now.
invited everywhere, apparently.
Xbox has
You're
hangout.
so popular, yo.
I wouldn't say that.
I think when you appeal to the atheist, like I used to, you know what I'm saying? I used to say, hey, I used to be an atheist, and I can tell you why, what changed my mind, to being a Christian. But anyway, go ahead, CA.
So that's it. I'm about to turn the Hangout off, and then I'll hopefully, if I can, I'll make I'll go back to making theological discussion every Friday, and then apologia versus atheism every Saturday. So
I won't be there.
all right. So I'll see you guys later. Shalom, aleichem,
Yeah.
peace be upon you, because I wish that upon you.